Hey folks, welcome to Market Technical Analysis by InTheMoneyStocks.com for Friday, January 4th, 2007. Well, the first week in January has come to a close with one of the largest declines overall on the NASDAQ in quite some time, actually going back to that late February fall into 2007 when the NASDAQ was down about 100 points. And today the NASDAQ ended down about 98 points, and it was just a bloodbath left and right, folks. And there's no doubt about it, is that, look at this chart here. We talked about this pattern here. We talked about the consistency of it hitting off this 50 moving average. And today when the economic data was released that we talked about yesterday being key, and I mean key for this market, the market just started to collapse and did not stop all day. There were small bounces here and there, but overall it was a tremendous bloodbath. And hey, what can I say? We're in the chat room, and guess what? We were profitable today. All across the chat room, we made good money in the chat room today, and a majority of it was on long positions. Go figure. But it just shows you the power of a group of individuals who, some are beginners, some are intermediate, some are advanced, helping each other out, calling out plays, looking at these stocks and that stocks, and by profitable day in the chat room, mostly on long positions, even with the market down 98 points on the NASDAQ. So we'll go into a few of that later, but let's look at the NASDAQ first. Again, NASDAQ down 98 points, the Dow down 256, and the S&P down 35. But let's get out our trend tools and start our work here. Again, folks, just an unbelievable day in the markets here, and you could see some major levels here. First of all, I want to point this out here, and the number one thing we should look at, first of all, we talk about this 200 moving average. And we kept on saying how they closed it right on this day, and this was on Wednesday, right on that line. And the next day, we didn't confirm the move down, but at the same time, we closed lower than the 200, so we were below the 200. And yesterday, we stressed in the video how important this number was today that came out at 8:30. So important that I actually went into the chat room early with individuals in anticipation of this number to see if there were any plays we could do off of this number. And sure enough, when that number was released, folks, the selling started. And I want to just show you the ES futures here, and I'm going to show you here on the intraday, right here. So we're trading all along here intraday, right? And this is leading up to 8:30. And look at the spike in volume here and the drop in the futures. And it was just a consistent drop, and we just went lower all day. The bounces were there, but they were very tiny. And this pattern right here, drop, and then trading this angle is setting you up for a small bounce right into the 20 moving average, and then another sell-off. And then a bounce right into the 20 moving average, another sell-off, bounce into the 20 moving average, and a sell-off. Alright, and one thing I want to point out here is you can look at it this way. Alright, look through here, and you can see the double bottom formation and then the breakdown. So you had this point here, and let me get rid of a couple of these lines right here so we can actually see a little on the clearer side here. Alright. You can see this bottom right here, intraday, right? And then you can see we retested that double bottom, and we actually got this bounce up to the 20 moving average. But there was just too much selling. And then all of a sudden, once we bounced off the double bottom and we couldn't break through that 20 moving average, dead signal we were going to sell off. Once we retested that double bottom, that was it. Usually you get a bounce off a double bottom. If you happen to come back and retest that double bottom again, likelihood is that you will break down further, and that's exactly what we did, sliding all the way down here. At which point we saw a little bounce, again testing that 20, again selling right into the close, and then after hours you got some short covering. The market closed right here, alright, right in this area right here. This is 4 o'clock, and then the futures trade till 4:15, and that's what we're looking at, these last two candles right here, where you got some short covering, which is obvious. So you got actually another little double bottom area right here forming, but we'll see where we go. It's not a pretty picture out there. This jobs number, the economic number, was just not good. It scared a lot of people out there. It doesn't seem like it's an if we hit a recession. It's in many situations now when we do, if we aren't already in it. And you know, what can you say? You know, we've been talking about this coming for a year now, and all the way back, going back to February, even when we were, you know, the company was in its infancy stages here, and now we are growing massively, obviously. But even back then, we still talked about the housing problems. And we even go back even 6 months before that when we first started talking. You're talking about 2006, folks. We talked about the housing issues, the subprime issues, and the cascade effect it was going to have. And it took a while to come to fruition, but it is fully here. And we'll look at the daily chart here to get another read. Number one, we had some key level breakdowns. This was the first level we were watching for support on the ES futures, right here. Alright? And we did get a bounce off this level, and you can see how it's a bottoming here. It's going to be support. There was a bounce off that, but the selling did not stop. In fact, we traded all the way down here, alright? All the way down to the point where you could almost say we're almost at the point here on the S&P. Look at that. Look at the tip of that where it came down to. Virtually, that's where you knew you were going to hit support. And it's interesting because on the NASDAQ, I want to show you the NASDAQ chart, but first let's just take one more look. Notice the lows. This is the November low, and that's where we came to today. So that's going to be near-term support. You're going to have support there, and that's why the markets generally came to that area and didn't break down lower because of that support there. But notice also the volume here. Very strong volume, all right? And any way you cut it, just some craziness going on. But let's look at the NASDAQ, and I want to talk a little bit about the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, again, ended down about 98 points. We hit 100. What's interesting about that 100 mark is it also coincided with a point all the way over here. And this is what I called out in the chat room. We're looking at the market falling, and I said in the chat room, it looks like there's going to be support around 25.02. And, you know, if any of you guys are interested in knowing how you reach that point, you talk about that point being right here, the low right here. All right, you break this low right here, folks, and you guys can see this low on August 28th coincides with the exact low of today. Everything about the markets is choreographed. Everything about it has symmetry in it, and it's important to realize that. So if you were to draw a line here all the way over, you're going to find out, and it's hard to because my screen isn't large enough for me to do that for you all, but we'll draw it right over to here. Let's get it as straight as possible, and then we can always extend it. But if we break this line, we're going to the August lows down here, or somewhere in this range right here, which ultimately I think we are going to see, and I think we're going to go lower, but there are going to be bounces along the way. Every market has a bounce, and here you guys can see. Let's even connect the line a little more here, all right? And it's hard to connect it on my software here, but it's just so low. But long story short, you guys can see, you just drag that line right over here, and it comes right to that low right there. The low today was 2502.68, which was exactly 100 points lower to the T. The closing price yesterday was 2602.68. The closing price today, or the low today, was 2502.68. So exactly 100.00 drop at the low today, which is, you ask yourself, how did they come up? How does it exactly do these things? And it's amazing. I love the markets for that simple reason. There is so much symmetry out there. It is just a beautiful thing to watch. And if you read the charts correctly, if you know how to read the charts correctly, you can talk and be ready for resistance points. You can be ready for support areas where you're most likely going to get a bounce, and it really works, folks. And that's what we do in the chat room. We talk about all this stuff constantly in the chat room. So I encourage everyone to come join. It's fun. We have a great time, too, especially when the market's tanking like this and everyone pretty much is up in the chat room. You got to have a good day. All right, look at this M pattern also. I want to bring this to everyone's attention. An M pattern formation is a bearish pattern formation, and now you want to look for an A formation, which is a small move up here to the side, and then the next plunge takes us even lower. And in my opinion, after we get that A formation, the next drop lower, which is again a bearish formation, which is going to take us lower, probably takes us to the August lows. All right, and that's my guess in the markets. Now we are getting a little oversold here. Look at where we were just a week ago. All the way up here, 2,700, now 2,500. So you're talking over 200-point loss on the NASDAQ just in a week. So you are getting to the oversold point, and I want to caution everyone about this. Be careful staying short overnight now. All right, Bush was meeting with the PPT today, the Plunge Protection Team, which is a group of people, I should say. It's hard to explain it. You can look it up online. Just type in Plunge Protection Team. You'll get a good sense of it. But essentially, this is what I call them, who he was meeting with. He was meeting with a bunch of individuals that have a lot of sway out there in the market, and that's included with Bernanke and a bunch of these other individuals, Paulson, and so forth. But anytime these guys are going to start to meet, folks, there could be a day where we wake up in the morning and you could have a massive spike up based on a surprise rate cut, infusion of liquidity. There just is many options out there because of things are getting bad. So I just caution everyone, yes, I do think we go lower, but intermediate bounces will happen, and they could be big. When you drop 98 points, you could rally 50 points on an open at some point. It's not out of the question. So just be careful. You guys know I'm a cautious player. I'm a cautious player. I like to day trade because at the close of the market, I'm in cash. And guess what I'm sitting in overnight over the weekend here? In cash. So my point being this, folks, is that you just got to be ready for that. So anyone just banking on a continual drop, yes, I think we could gap down Monday if everything stays the same on Asia. Asia's going to be very weak, but be aware of that, folks. All right. That's all. I just want to caution everyone. I like everyone to be aware and fully aware, and then they can make their own choices based on that. And if your choice is to go short, then so be it. But just be fully informed. That's my policy. All right, the Qs, folks. First time we broke through here on the Qs, the 200. This is the one I've been talking about. Watch for a breakdown in. When this breaks down, all hell could break loose. If we confirm this move down and stay below the 200 here, we could be nearing a situation where these large cap techs take a hit like crazy. Apple was down 15 points today. Baidu down 15. Google down 28. Research in Motion down 10 almost. Amazon down 6. Goldman Sachs closed below 200 for the first time in quite some time. That's all for today, folks. Crazy times. Enjoy, be safe, and have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you soon.